Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
I'm calling the meeting of the Village of Saxtons River to order. It is January 24th. It's just after 7 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. Carl Ball is at Main Street Arts, keeping us open for anyone who wants to attend physically. At this point, it looks like Jean and Gordon Corstange are the only attendees online who are not trustees. If anyone has an issue or wants or has technical difficulties, tonight the number to call or text is 802-591-3418. And that's my number, so I hope nobody has technical difficulties. All right, the first item on the agenda after the call to order is public comment. Gordon, do you have public comments?
No, just the same ones that I, the Tenney lumberyard thing, but I don't want to,
Okay.
I don't have any comments on it. It just still sits there, it's been sitting there for, God, how many years since the old semi trucks used to pull up under our house, and sit there all night running, and anyway, no, it's not really, it's just, it'd be nice to see something happen there, but I guess it's not going to.
Okay. Any other comments to relay from the public? All right, moving on. So we have the proposal from the Bennington Engineers, MS&K. We asked Chris Moore, who was a lawyer in Saxtons River, if he would review the contract. He sent comments back to me, and I have forwarded them on to Carl. Carl, you were also going to read over the original document. Do you have anything to add to Chris's comments? I can share them with the board, but I thought I'd give you first dibs.
I did not find much that Chris didn't. There are a couple of things. One is that he mentions referring to exhibits that aren't there. So I've noted a couple places in section 4 on page 3, it refers to exhibit F, and we should just X through that exhibit F2 there. So that it no longer refers to it. I would suggest that we should try just drawing a line through to delete the exhibits that are not used or included. Now, Chris mentioned getting confirmation that they weren't part of the contract, and it does say in the document not used, but I think if we just removed all reference to them, that might be clearer. And there are, as I'm scrolling through my notes here, 2 places in exhibit H and in Article 5 that refers to paragraph 6.08C and to paragraph 6.09. And I could not find either any paragraph labeled that way in the document. So there's some internal references that don't seem to go anywhere. And I think that that's something we should clarify.
You want to clarify them, or you want to strike a line through
them? Well, I'm not sure that we can really strike a line through them. let me just, I'm down in the original document here.
You want me to give you the power to share your screen?
No, I don't think so.
I don't need it.
Um,
And
Yeah,
Chris
so
is,
it refers, so for example, it refers to paragraph 6.09 of the agreement is supplemented to include the following agreement of the parties. I guess we could just delete that. But it may be that just that I was not looking correctly for it.
Carl, would it be appropriate for you to send me a brief memo? I mean, I've written down remove D, E, F, and G and delete references to paragraph 6.08C and 6.09. If that's all you have, then I can take it from here. But if there are other things that you want more time to put in a list, I'd like to have those in hand before I reach out to MS and K.
Sure, no, I can, I will send you my suggested edits.
Okay.
And then Chris also in his email to you suggested deleting the
Exhibit I, the cap on $100,000, no matter
Yeah.
what negligent error is made, and no matter how much damage it costs.
Yeah, I picked that up too. I thought that was pushing it. And I didn't think that that was appropriate to waive everything, because if the engineers should get sued for $1 million, that would leave us liable for the balance. So I think we should try to strike that and see.
All right. So it sounds like we have 3 areas of disagreement with the contract. I am willing to take these up to address with MSNK. Would you like to wait until I have heard back from them to move on this contract?
Well, can't we approve it pending changes?
We could. Was that your preference, Matt?
It is.
It moves it along, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
How do the rest of you feel? Ellen?
that's fine. I agree.
So that sounded like a motion, Matt.
yeah, it was.
Matt Brennan moves to approve the MSK proposal subject to the changes suggested by Carl Ball and Chris Moore.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that's what I said.
It sounded like what you said.
Yeah.
Do you have that, Carl?
I have that. I'll
Is there a
second
second
that.
to that motion? Carl is
I'll
seconding it.
second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposal, the MSK proposal. And I assume by that we also mean the expenditure, subject to the changes suggested by Carl Ball and Chris Moore. Let's leave the funding separate. Let's just do the proposal.
Okay.
Are there further questions?
No.
Okay. All in favor signify by showing me your hand.
I'm trying to raise my hand.
Okay, good. We got it. So it's unanimous. It passes unanimously. So I can report that I am in receipt of very detailed letters from Vermont Academy, Jennifer Zaccaro, the head of school there, and from Harold Buckner, the head of the Warner Center, agreeing that if Saxtons River Village is charged in the neighborhood of $30,000, that they will each kick in $10,000 to the village. I can show you those letters, but I assume you're willing to take my word for it.
I already looked at them.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Do we have
Same here.
anything else to do regarding the MSNK proposal?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
I do have a question.
okay,
So the contract calls for us to be invoiced monthly
yes.
for charges. So I just would like us to give some thought as to where that monthly payment is going to come from. So for example, if we're going to look for money from AARPA, we should get started on that so that we have the money in the bank to draw on, so to speak, as we did for the sewer. Where
Is that something Gary can weigh in on?
Gary, we're discussing the proposal to deal with water infrastructure in Saxtons River.
Yeah.
We've just passed the proposal pending some, I think they're relatively minor contractual changes. But the plan was to, in all probability, roll the payment for this project into a revolving fund, clean drinking water. Someone help me out with the proper name for the revolving fund. Do you know what I'm talking about, Gary? The Clean Water Fund? It's an interest-free loan.
Yeah, so so there's two things. One is that the state has some ARPA funds for clean water that that can be applied for. I'm not sure if it's a match for this particular for your project, but it might be. And it would be good to use the state's ARPA funds before the Saxtons River ARPA funds if it's eligible, right? Save your funds for things that aren't eligible in other places.
Okay.
So how do we go about that? That's something that goes through you?
No, I mean, I can help if you want. You basically, it's on the ARPA website, but I'd be happy to, I mean, yeah, how about we talk about it during the ARPA agenda item?
Okay. We also have MSNK who do not have experience with ARPA funds, but had said that they would give us more feedback on what would be an appropriate funding source for the grant.
So,
but I agree. I think if we can get state ARPA funding for this, that would be much superior. So let's defer that for a couple of minutes to the ARPA meeting discussion with Gary. Are there any other questions? I don't want to lose your point, Carl, but I think we can wait for Gary and the ARPA discussion. Is your hand up because you have comments?
yes, it is.
Okay.
So I just wanted to respond that you had said we had been, in all probability, this would go to the state revolving fund. And that wasn't my understanding, and that's a loan. And I thought that we were going to do this with grant funding and not borrow $15,000
Right,
on this project. So
right.
I'd just like to make it perfectly clear that we're not looking to get a loan. We're looking to get a grant to fund this.
I think the only options were loans, but I will clarify that before we go forward with the project.
Well, the options that the engineers talked about were loans, but I was looking at, and we were talking about the ARPA money, which would be grant money or the equivalent of grant money.
I'm not
And
sure that's
was
the
it-
case.
What my understanding was that this would all get, we had 2 years to pay it back or something, and it gets rolled into the project, which is going to be grant funded. And that's where it was going to be paid from.
So I think Carl is pointing out that the letter of the contract talks about monthly invoicing. So
Right.
he is concerned that we are to begin paying now.
Well, I guess that would be a question. It'd be a question to get verified before any contract is signed.
And that's not the only point that I'm trying to make here. That's one. But the other is, where are we going to get that money when it comes time to have it? Are we looking, if we're looking to roll this into a larger project, well, we may not like any of the options and we may not choose to go ahead with the larger project.
That's correct. And then we are on the hook for $10,000.
And it may not, well, 15 actually, because the total is 35.
Now 31.5.
31.5? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, 11,000.
So
I'm
I understand the concerns, but seems though we went through this with the guy from the state, and basically the big push for this is for Vermont Academy to get money to upgrade what needs to happen there, which includes fire hydrants for part of the village. And so it was that, I forget that gentleman's name that was on, but he seemed to think that we had 2 years to pay it back and that it was going to get rolled into that project, which is not a village project. So all of that was going to be coming out of monies, ARPA or whatever else it was that he was talking about at the state level, state and federal level.
So are you talking about Chris Coda?
No, I know Chris Coda. Who's the guy from the state? I forget his name.
What's his name? Pat? Is that who I'm thinking of?
Are you thinking of Patrick, who's MS and K?
Oh, was it Patrick?
Yeah,
I thought there was no.
I don't
Well,
think,
that's
I
the
don't think-
understanding that I had, that, so yeah, some clarification, because we don't have appropriation of $31,500 to start doing a study that is going to possibly upgrade 2 private systems. And I thought we had gone through all of this, but it would be good to clarify that we don't have to start writing checks and hopefully get reimbursed, because we can't be doing that.
so I'm not sure I'm understanding this, and you two are being very clear, so it's clearly a problem that I'm having. I had thought that we agreed that it was worth our investment of $11,500 to pursue this study, understanding that any further developments that happen with the water system in Saxons River, such as perhaps the building of a concrete structure which would supply extra water to the hydrant systems, would be beneficial to the village.
Absolutely.
But I'm
but
hearing reluctance
no, we
to
didn't.
put us on the spot for that $11,500.
Right.
What I'm
so-
hearing is it isn't worth the investment of that money.
well,
No, I think you're getting things a little. We were told that, I would assume this is ARPA money or this other fund that we can use to pay for this. We have not been, has not been in my mind, nor have I agreed to spend $31,500 of village money to do this study. We were told that the money would come from grants here and there and rolled into the project. And if it is anything different than that, then I'm not in favor of it, but seems though
All
we
right,
had a
so-
lot of information about this.
Let us pick this up with the discussion of ARPA projects in item number 6.
Well,
So
if we're not going to resolve this issue,
then we
Then I
can't
think we
sign the
should-
contract.
that's right. I think we should reconsider that motion to sign the contract until the money's clear.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was clear.
Well, I can go back
So
and
do you-
reread the
so-
minutes of previous meetings, but obviously we have a very different sense of what decisions we came to.
Well, can I just take a portion to help maybe explain it? Because this is how, I'm just looking at Harold Buckner's understanding
Mhm.
of it, because he wrote it here in his letter. He
Yeah,
said,
both of them did.
yeah, I understand the cost of this study is $31,500. The village will be applying for this funding for this study through the Vermont Drinking Water State Revolving Loan Fund. It is my understanding that if a work project is performed based on the study, the funding may not be paid back. However, Warner Center Holdings LLC agrees that if funding needs to be paid back, Warner Holdings agrees to contribute $10,000. So I was pretty clear on it, and now I'm still clear on it, I think.
So
Well,
the
that was the whole reason for me pushing to have equal partnership as far as the debt was concerned, was
Yeah,
to say, but we were being told that the 31.5 could be coming from, I believe, ARPA money. Okay, well, it was coming from someplace else. It was not a loan. And if I need to rescind my earlier motion, then I will do so. But I thought it was pretty clear at a couple of meetings that we
So I
had.
tell you what, let us move now to the ARPA meetings and process and see if Gary can help us out with a discussion of the ARPA funds.
So what about the number 4 and 5?
We will come back to those with your permission. We will defer those
All
until
right.
we've finished with this.
Well, let's go.
And actually, I can give you number 4 already. I had a phone call from Rick Cowan, who asked to discuss the sewer bill tonight. He would like to postpone that discussion till next month. So item 4 is actually going to be continued later. So let's go to item number 6, ARPA meetings and process, and Gary Fox is here to discuss that with us.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know if this is exactly in reference to the project that you're talking about. I mean, I think that the meeting that I was at, that was on, there was discussion of the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund, and that if a project was implemented versus not implemented, and if it wasn't implemented and had to be paid back, that the partners would each share that cost, Vermont Academy, Warner Center, and the other, but that, and you guys, but that the idea was that if the project moves forward, then you don't have that debt and there are grants. But I'm not sure about that second part. Just remember the first part, each group, agreeing to be responsible for a third. And so with ARPA funds, I just was reading on the state website, and the water systems for municipalities such as a village are one of the 6 priorities for the state ARPA funds. So so just keep that in mind as we move into the, can someone enable screen sharing? I'd love to be able to
Yes.
put a couple of things. Thanks.
Of course. Let me do that with you. So I'm going to make you a co-host, and I'll make you the host. You are now the host, and you should be able to screen share.
Okay. Let's see.
Make sure you host me back before you leave us.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Okay, so there's screen share. Okay, so this, let's see if I can blow that up a little bit. This is a draft of or an outline of a process for input on ARPA funds that so far the select board and the village trustees have agreed, Bellows Falls village trustees have agreed to take input from this process as recommendations. And so like that first group of local organizations, that's meant as an example. I mean, if you know, if you folks are taking Saxtons River specific recommendations, certainly, you know, Main Street Arts would be an organization. Anyone, if the Historical Society, any groups that you wanted to put in projects could do that ahead of time. And then additionally, there's public engagement sessions, the first one being March 16th, a Wednesday at 5:30 in the evening. We don't have agreement on it yet because of the pandemic, but the goal is to have food there at 5 o'clock so that it's easy for people to come from work to the meeting and have some type of childcare available. So those pieces aren't locked down yet, but basically a public engagement session from 5:30 that would have, it's facilitated and would present projects that have been collected from different organizations, some type of process looking at overlap, synergies, talking a little bit about how, well, you'll see when we get to the next part, but and then also soliciting projects from anyone in the audience could bring up something that they, you know, thought would be a good project. And so gathering all this information provides a sense for the boards of what people in the community want to see happen. And the boards can, of course, decide to use the ARPA funds in any eligible way they choose. But this is a process for getting the projects out there. There's some additional benefits in terms of everyone knowing what's on the horizon that people would like to see, because even if something isn't funded by a board at this ARPA piece, it lets us know what the community wants in terms of when we see different funding opportunities. You know, that's really, grants are out there to fund projects that you have, that you're trying to develop, that you want to do. Seeing a funding opportunity and then trying to come up with a project to match it isn't, you know, doesn't produce as good a results. So, so a side benefit of this is even projects that aren't chosen or that aren't necessarily ARPA eligible, if like we go through and screen them and say, okay, these projects are ARPA eligible, here's some that weren't, but we have them in a parking lot. We know that there are things that are out there. And so then Comoyne Associates is gonna take all of the projects and work them into like a charrette for the second public engagement session, which would be a way of looking at all the projects and having the public rate them, so that when the projects go to the boards, they'll have some sense of prioritization or impact or importance or comment, so that the boards then have yet more information to work with. So the joint board, right? So I think the Saxtons River trustees now participate in the joint board meeting. So March 29th, the first public engagement meeting, and then organizing of projects by the team will be presented at that March 29th joint board meeting. So there'll be some input there as well to take into the the second public engagement session. And the benefit of that is, like, if there's certain things that that you folks have strong feelings about, you can get those kind of criteria or rules. You can get pieces, weighed into the process. Let me see if I can think of a good example of that. I don't have one off the top of my head, but if there were like 5 that came up at the Bellows Falls trustees meeting, concerns and ways to guide the discussion of the project seeking, that help keep things clear between the different boards, that sort of thing. So here's an example. The Bellows Falls trustees were concerned that we're setting them up to get to get trashed basically by the public if we say to the public, hey, we want your we want to know what projects you want. We want you to prioritize them. And then they don't choose them. It's setting them up to get hammered. Like, I thought this was going to happen. So that reinforces to us on the project team, the importance of setting expectations, and to say that this is input to our public representatives, but your Saxtons River trustees may not pick in exactly your priority, or may not even pick these projects. It's their job to determine the best way to spend available funds and to appropriate them. And so this is a way to provide your elected officials with, with your thoughts and input. And so that's an example of, at the joint board meeting, where you hear the presentation, you may think of certain things that you want to go into the last meeting, like that sort of thing, that we make sure we keep clear up front. Okay, so basically the final report would be coming out in May, potentially for the May joint board meeting. And then let me just pull up a different document here for a second. Stop share. Let's see, kind of disappeared here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this, so the way projects come in, this screen gives kind of an idea of the layout. So, and one important piece of having projects side by side and being able to sort them and organize them is that they all, they're simple inputs, and that they all have the same categories that are being input. So, so you could choose, like if you're putting in a project that you're thinking of specifically for Saxtons River and for the Saxtons River AARPA funds, you would choose just Saxtons River on that project. So there's going to be like a Google form that you can go in, and you could choose Saxtons River or Saxtons River and rural Rockingham, or you could choose all 3. Or so then the category for public and nonprofit sector, or workforce development education, or private sector, or infrastructure and transportation. So that puts your project in a type of category. And then the stage, is it the exploratory stage, preliminary, implementation, or operations and maintenance? So of course it could be just an idea, right? It's exploratory. It could be something that you've already been implementing and you need funds to operate and maintain the project. So that kind of, the stage is kind of an important one for what we're spending our money on, right? And then is it already in a plan? So is it in the town plan? Is it in a capital projects budget? Is it anywhere else, so that we know if there's already funds programmed towards that project? It can help to know, okay, these would be matching funds. There's already some other funds, that sort of thing. And then specifying other funding sources. And then you could attach any documents that are helpful, right? If you have, like for the fire station, if you have plans for the station already, those could be attached with the project submission. And then just to help, so everyone has the same understanding of, so what do we mean by public and nonprofit sector? This kind of describes what fits into that category. You know, what's workforce development? Well, it addresses pipeline issues that help employers draw in local talent to fill positions. And it could be workforce targeting youth and young adults, or it could be, you know, targeting immigrants that are learning English as a second language, or that sort of thing. Private sector, you know, and then infrastructure and transportation. So all of the inputs that you're doing are described here. What's exploratory, what's preliminary, what's implementation, what's stage 4. So I'll email this document to Amy, and she could share it around, and then I'm glad to take input on things that you think would be helpful to clarify further or adjust in the categories. Go ahead.
So I have a question, Gary. I'm sorry if somebody else does. Oh, and I see Carl has one. Let me save mine. Go ahead, Carl. Oh, no. Do you have a question, or is that that's my?
Well, I do, but you can go ahead with yours first.
Okay, so my question is, the last thing I saw from my source for ARPA information has been webinars and information on the League of Cities and Towns website.
Right.
And the issue that I'm concerned about, and it seems to be a moving target, although I understand the final rules have been established now. I am trying to understand what is an eligible project and what exactly that means. So this goes exactly to the question we've just been discussing. So water infrastructure, does that just mean that more money is going to be pushed through the Clean Water Revolving Fund, or does it actually mean that we can get a grant to spend money on water infrastructure?
So a couple
where do I find that out?
Yeah, so a couple of different things. We're going to use this as a guideline with the projects. So if you look at the details, right, it's a goal to you know, convene stakeholders and build consensus. You know, well, that's pretty lofty. I mean, convening stakeholders and getting input, and that, you know, it's a start in that direction, right? And then voting on them and rating them. Follow allowable uses under ARPA. So VLCT, when the final rule came out, there's some challenging concepts in there that they were trying to work through. And so they said, oh, hold off for the moment. That was a week or two ago. They may have changed that at this point. But when there is clear guidance on what those allowable uses are, we'll include those. And there may be a lot of eligible uses. It may be even more flexible than we thought for everyone, not just the challenged, vulnerable communities.
Which Rockingham is, correct?
No, Rockingham
okay.
is not. Bellows Falls is.
Okay.
So Carrie, I'm sorry to interrupt for a quick second. You said both allowable usage and eligible uses. Are those two separate things, or you're just using those words interchangeably?
No, partly because I'm reading and thinking while I'm talking. I'm not being real careful with my wording here. So things will be eligible for ARPA funds, or they won't be, right?
Okay,
or allowed uses. So right here, like in prioritize good governments, follow allowable uses under ARPA. So I would call that eligibility for ARPA funds.
Oh, okay. So you are using it interchangeably.
Yes,
Okay.
I am, yes.
Okay.
Um, so at any rate, one of the reasons it's good to follow this is that if there is a lot of flexibility, and some of it is borderline, it says as long as A, B, or C, then if anytime you can show you're following the intent of the guidance, you have an upper hand in being determined eligible if if there's questions there. So you can show that you're following the instructions, you're going to be in good shape. So that's why I include this in the original document, but there will be further detail from VLCT that'll be more definitive. I have a feeling that their end guidance is going to leave it pretty open with these kinds of guidelines to follow. But that's not quite determined yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
so your other question though, when I say the ARPA clean water funds, I'm not sure how they will be putting it through their, that like they may make up a separate application. Here's their application process, and but it's not part of the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund, and I don't believe they're just going to merge that into that and operate it the same way. I think it is going to be a separate fund. It is like with the coronavirus relief funds, it is a separate pot of money. It's in a separate appropriation that came through the feds with it attached rules and regulations with strings attached. So, so I believe there'll be a separate application process for ARPA water, clean water grants. And the only reason I was saying let's take that up when you brought it up earlier, Matt, the reason I was saying let's take it up under here is because in this process on the in the spreadsheet that we looked at that had the public engagement meetings and then a project team looking at projects. Part of the work that's going to be done between the public engagement meeting and the joint board meeting is verifying eligibility and determining a process for state fund, right? Because if we look at something and say, wait a second, this should be eligible for state funds. Let's take all these details, right? So that we're not proposing something that comes back a yes, and then we find out there's some details different that makes it a no. We'll take this exact proposal and say, oh, okay, Katie, we know there's ARPA clean water funds. Here's something that the Warner Center, Vermont Academy, and the Saxtons River Village trustees want to do in the designated village center. Is this eligible for that grant? And how do we go about applying it? So in that process, we'll be doing that discovery and getting those details.
Okay.
So by March 20, so if that's a project that you submit as one of your ARPA projects, by March 29th, I'll have those answers for you about eligibility, how you apply. Is it a grant? Is it, all through the state? Do they expect any match from local ARPA funds? All of those kinds of things will be clear when we can vet a specific project.
Okay.
And so the project team, it would be good to have one Saxons River Village trustee, one Bellows Falls Village trustee, and one Rockingham Select Board member on the project team to get that sort of guidance. So, yeah, I guess that was the basic nut that I wanted to relay there tonight.
Okay.
Any other clarifying questions that would help?
When do you need the nomination? When do you need to have the trustee for the project team? Is the project team meeting already?
No, but we are waiting to set up an initial meeting with Camoin Associates to get things rolling until there's a project team. So it would be good if for, maybe first week of February, we could be doing a doodle poll for that kickoff meeting.
Okay. And are those meetings, do we have a sense of when they'll happen? What time of day?
No, that'll be part of, depending on who the participants are weighing in on a doodle poll. This is when I can do it. That's why we
Okay.
want to know who the project team is. Then we could plan the meetings and get that piece rolling.
Okay.
Carl had a hand raised.
Yeah, so I'm becoming slightly more confused as I listen to this. So maybe you can, so let's go back to your original spreadsheet that you showed of outlining the process of series of meetings and so forth. Yeah, okay, so what we are talking about here is a process for evaluating projects. Now, is this for the ARPA funds that are designated to some to the town of Rockingham, some to the village of Bellows Falls, some to the village of Saxtons River, or to projects that might go to state ARPA funds other than those three, or all of the above?
So, yeah, so the end goal of this is to provide input to the three boards for the three funds.
Okay.
It's not, the goal is to get the projects on the table and present them as input. The end goal is not the prioritization. That will be a nice benefit. The Camoin Associates, who will be running the public engagement process, one of the things that they're real good at is running a meeting and getting some type of prioritization set in complicated economic development scenarios. That's what they do. And so we will come out with some type of prioritization. But the goal really is to get all of the projects on the table and have the project team be able to sort through them and determine eligibilities, determine if they're eligible for other funds. So while the end goal is just getting all these potential ARPA projects in the hands of the boards, so they know what the community would like to see for projects, and then of course the boards, as with their fiduciary responsibility, has to determine fund appropriations to what they feel is in the best long-term interest. The ARPA funds, their intent is long-term. What's the best long-term interest for their constituents?
Okay, so your Camoin Associates, is it? I'm sorry, the print on my tiny laptop screen is too small to make out.
That's fine.
Who is paying their fees?
Who's what?
Who's paying for
Town of Rockingham.
Okay, so this is not something that we need to worry about.
No, there's a economic development planning fund that we thought like the best use of these funds would be to help all of us get our ARPA things squared and make sure we're spending our funds as intended and not using them for things that there's other funds for. They would be the wisest use of our planning money. So that is covered.
Okay. And third question. I understood you to say that there would be a final report on the various projects, prioritizations, and so forth in May.
Yes.
So basically, if we had a project in mind for which we might want to use ARPA funds, we would be needing to wait until May to actually move ahead with it.
Yeah, so let me just pull up one other thing for a minute. So one of the things that this appropriation was really careful about was to not have any pressure to make decisions or use the funds quickly. As you can see, they've taken a year just to come up with the rules. The feds give the rules to the states, never mind how the states are then rolling those out to constituents. The decisions on spending have to be made, I think, by 2023, and funds spent by 2024. So if there's something that's kind of an emergency that you need to spend funds on before May, it probably doesn't fit the intent and criteria of the ARPA funds. And that's not to say that you can't. It's your money. You could do whatever you want with it as long as it is allowable. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Well, it sort of sounds like you're saying yes and no.
well,
So,
so these funds you can do whatever you want with, but the goal is for them not to be quick money. The goal is for them to be thoughtful, long-term money, and use a really thoughtful level of consideration in what you're going to do with these funds, these one-time flexible funds.
So my eye goes immediately to, in point number 3, prioritize short-term investments. And our water study is a relatively short-term investment with lasting benefits. I mean,
Right.
this study would have, you know, if we get something concrete that we can work on, that's definitely a lasting benefit.
Yes, and is it something that is a short-term investment that that couldn't be made in June?
Well, we've got a little bit of a situation because Vermont Academy is pushing that they have a connection with Senator Leahy's office, and they want to get going on that.
And you have a clean water revolving loan fund that could be paid back in June with your ARPA funds with no penalty to you if it turned out it had to be paid back.
We think so.
I think we need clarification on that.
Yeah. So I could write to Katie Buckley. Katie Buckley is the point person at League of Cities and Towns. She's been the real source of information on the webinars and the rules that have been posted so far. I have a lot of faith in her ability, but I know that the last publication was 500 densely written pages of information that provided this final rule. The other thing that's been clear to me is that Saxtons River is eligible for $148,000, but we could also throw that money to Rockingham for a project that would benefit Saxtons River. So it's going to be complicated for a while. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
So I would just say regarding you think so around the ARPA water things. I mean, the 4 things that were in the original ARPA eligibilities, one of the 4 was water and sewer infrastructure.
Yep.
I mean, there's not even a question on those. Those are easy yeses. The only question is it eligible for the state ARPA funds so we don't have to use our flexible local ones? But in terms of could you use that to pay for this clean water study? Yes. I mean, those items are eligible by definition. If it's broadband infrastructure or water and sewer infrastructure, there's 4 of them that are eligible regardless of other factors.
So are you telling us, Gary, that we can definitely pay for our $31,000 project using ARPA funds?
Yes.
And when would we get the money?
You have the money in your bank account.
So we could use, and is there a process for approval?
Well, so if you read the compliance documents on the grant, it talks about, you know, what you have to do for reporting.
Oh, yeah. I haven't gotten into that. I've been too nervous.
Right. I don't think they're that ornery, really, but that's what you'd have to do, is just follow the compliance pieces.
So it
is that-
sounds like our fears are a little out of line. That, I mean, as you point out, the money's already in our bank account.
Yes.
Right, but what you're saying, Gary, is possibly don't use that if we can use it at the state level, but that would
Right.
take more time. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, you don't have the state money yet. Yeah, there'd be a process.
Okay.
That's true.
All right.
And so,
the-
and I'm,
But I think MSK, I think you have a team that's already in a track of using the Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund that doesn't cost you anything for a while. That you
Right.
can,
I thought it was
if you
2
end up
years.
having to pay it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but
Well,
they also say monthly invoices, Gary. So, I mean, I don't quite
Right.
get
So
that.
that would mean we would get the money from the revolving loan fund that does not need to be paid back for, I believe they said 2 years,
Okay,
at which time we can use, prior to that, we could use the ARPA money to pay for it, if we so desire.
Yes, and so the monthly invoices, isn't that MSK that's invoicing you monthly and you pay it with
Yes.
the revolving loan funds?
oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so Ellen and then Carl, yes.
I'll let Carl go first. He had his hand up first.
No, I think I just neglected to take my hand down. I don't have any questions.
Okay, so I apologize for what could come across as a silly question, but so the 31,500 is a grant or a loan. It's not something that we've been given that we have to pay it back no matter what. Right?
Well,
That, I guess that's what I'm unclear.
$31,000 is the fee that the engineers charge for
Right.
their work.
Right.
They
But I-
suggest that we use the grant from the revolving loan fund to
Right.
pay those invoices. If
Correct,
we
but-
do not do a project, a long-term project,
Oh, okay.
then we are on the hook for that $31,500.
Got it.
And at that point, well, it's great we get to ask these questions over and over again, and each of us brings us back to the salient point. So if we do this engineering study and we decide, damned if we're going to do anything. I mean, that's one of the possibilities outlined in the MSK proposal.
Right.
The village trustees decide to do nothing. Now we're on the hook for $31,500. We have letters of intent, which will pay $20,000. The village is out $11,000. And the question is, can ARPA then be used to pay that amount? I think that's what you were asking me.
Yes. Thank you.
Questions for Gary? Gary, are we looking at a hearing in Saxons River? A hearing, a public engagement meeting?
Well, the goal is to have as many people as possible. So it probably would be in the Bellows Falls Theater with a Zoom option on the large movie screen, so that
Wow.
yeah, so that we could have a full complement. It's kind of modeled after the community visit participation, because that got so many people out and so much participation that we would like to see that type of participation in this process.
Yeah, those were
That's
held in
it.
the middle school, weren't they?
It
Or
was in
maybe it was in the Moose?
What's that?
Was it in the Moose? I went, but I don't really remember where we were, but I don't think it was the movie theater.
The dinner was in the Moose. The all hands meeting was in the Opera House.
Oh, in the
That was just
basement,
before-
maybe?
I thought it was upstairs. I remember attending. I thought it was in the main opera house, and it was just before the pandemic. Like there was, I mean, it was a really good turnout.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
actually, I think I'm remembering some early meetings. You know, you'd hear there's one at the library, there's one
Yes,
at the
we had
middle
12
school. There's
breakout
one at,
meetings.
okay,
Yes, there were 12 breakout meetings and a couple of altogether larger meetings.
okay. But you're envisioning all of these meetings happening in the big movie theater
Yes.
with the screen. Great. Okay. So one of the things that I would think we would take on as village trustees is trying to make sure that Saxtons River was really aware that these meetings happening in Bellows Falls had to do with our projects. I mean, that's the way for us to contribute to this list of projects. Okay. Other questions for Gary?
Because you're also Rockingham residents and you may have input on how to spend Rockingham's money. And yeah. And we want to try and look for synergies and overlap and duplication and, you know, things that could be collaborated on. Yeah.
More
Okay.
questions for Gary?
No,
Okay,
You've
well,
been
thanks for your
great,
time.
Gary.
Yep,
Can you make me the host again, please?
you bet. Stop share.
Thank
Got
you.
it?
Yep,
Yep.
I do. Thanks so much, Gary. So I guess this is the point where I say, are we okay with the motion that we made earlier to move forward with this grant?
yep,
Carl, you seconded it? You're still okay?
Yep,
Okay,
as long as there's a place the money's gonna come from besides my pocket,
yep.
you know?
while Gary is still here, I'm going to leap into number 5, the planning grant for 37 Main. So I'll give you a little project report. If I'm happy to send that grant out again, but I will be reporting on it routinely until it's so obvious that you won't need me to report on it. So the initial report is that, Gary, I believe you were the person who confirmed receipt of the grant. So we have officially agreed that, yes, we're very happy to have completed the process, become one of the grant recipients in the state of Vermont. Gary and Scott and I met and looked at the initial steps which need to be taken. The grant has me as the project manager and the trustees as the group that makes decisions, the village trustees. So Gary and Scott and I agreed that Betsy Thurston will write up a list of qualifications for the consultant who will be hired. And a very small committee will interview those consultants probably at the end of, well, in 3 weeks or so. I have asked Rick Cowan, who is the president of Main Street Arts, if he would be willing to be another person on that group doing interviews. So that's where we are so far. We will hope to have a consultant, and then I'll come back with you and propose a schedule of meetings, which are also outlined in that grant. Questions? Okay, Gary, I think we're good.
Okay. Thanks for your time. Have a good night. We'll see y'all soon.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Gary.
Gary.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to the fire and rescue contract with Athens.
What about, what's the deal with number 4, sewer bill discussion? It's on the agenda.
Yes, so I thought I was clear on that, but let me reiterate. Rick Cowan called me this afternoon and said, could we postpone that discussion to later in February? And I said, sure. I also told him that, to my knowledge, the only time we had forgiven sewer connections was when a building was raised.
That's correct.
So just to let him know, the likelihood was, there's not a good likelihood that we'll, but you get to make your case, sure.
Okay.
So that's his plan. He's going to come back in February.
All right. Number 7.
Number 7, fire and rescue contract. So I had written to Athens. I have not heard from Sarah about whether they paid their invoice, but I'm now proceeding to invoice them for the larger amount that we discussed several meetings ago. And I'll be sending that out by the end of the month.
And remind me again, what was that amount? Was it 8,000?
So hold on.
Was there not going to be somebody contacted to give them a heads up, or what?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
I thought I had the amount here. I believe it was 7,500.
Oh, maybe that was it. That's
I think we made the decision that we would kind of soften the blow, if you will.
right. Now I remember.
But I'll look that up. It's in the minutes. So I had written to David Bemis, who is the chair of that board, to let him know that we would probably raise the rates. And now I'll write to him and quote our reasons and give him the bill. I assume they are putting together their warning for town meeting.
Do we have an actual contract, a signed contract with them, or is it just a bill?
We have an agreement.
Okay.
Would you like to see that? It's in my
No,
files here.
does it have to be updated with the amount that we're charging them?
I assume it does. Yeah.
Okay, so that
Yeah.
would be going with the bill, or prior to, or?
Yeah, I guess. Good point.
Should have something signed on file for them and for us.
And it should look like a contract.
There you go.
I was going to have it look like an invoice, Matt.
Well, probably need both.
Yeah.
Presumably, we don't invoice them until they've agreed to the contract, right? We don't bill them until they've agreed to the new terms.
Well, I think the main thing is to get it on their agenda for annual meeting. And you know, now I'm kind of lost. Did they make the decision to go to an all vote annual meeting? I know that they considered it, the town of Athens.
Oh, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I heard something on VPR and I think I don't know how it came out. I should know. So that's just a little heads up.
Okay.
Number 8, village trustee meetings. The legislature is back in session and they have passed a bill that allows us to return to our COVID practice of holding meetings solely by electronic means.
Okay.
In other words, we would no longer have to have a public place warned and an individual from our board sitting there. So
Okay, good.
what is your pleasure? I think we need to take action on this and then get the word out. The legislature considered the fact that in many small Vermont towns, what this meant was one individual from the board was sitting alone in a coal building. Carl?
I've started the fire in the corner, so I'm just fine.
No, when I read it, I thought, yeah.
So you need a motion that says
Well,
that
I want
we
some-
are adopting
yes,
that?
I needed a motion and then some discussion. Yes.
Well, I'll make a motion that we adopt the state of Vermont's
Well, it allows us to.
that
So
allows us to their
I would say to move to Zoom meetings
Indefinitely?
as a rule.
there you go.
I don't believe it's indefinitely, but I can look that up.
You want to read that back to me, Carl?
Well, I think you have moved that trustee meetings shall be held electronically only for an indefinite period. to
There you
be
go.
determined.
Sounds good.
I'm going to see if I can pull up the legislation. I'm sorry for
a
not
second?
being,
I'll second it. I second.
We got a second.
been moved and seconded. Hold on.
I like the comfort of my guest room.
Carl's, I don't know if he's agreeing with you.
Well, no, actually, much as I dislike rushing down here and sitting in this chilly room, there are people who might want to attend these meetings who don't have computer access. I think.
Well, you can certainly, if you're going to continue to do it, you're going to have to wear a fireman's hat while you're down there.
Okay.
So I wondered about that, Carl. But we've been meeting electronically for quite some time. I can remember 2 occasions, possibly 3, when we had members of the public, 2 of them, I think, in the fire station and 1 at Main Street Arts. But when I looked at the members of the public who were there, I couldn't find anyone who would not be able to attend by either telephone or Zoom. And it can be phone, it doesn't have to be Zoom. So I think, for example, of the discussion in the fire station that included Leslie Goldman, Abigail Goldie, who else was there? Were you there, Ellen? Do you remember this? Rick Holloway was there, I think, and you?
Yeah, in the actual, you're talking about in Main Street Arts?
No, I'm thinking about one that was at the fire station, even
Oh,
earlier.
what are you working towards here, Amy?
I'm working towards an understanding of whether we have a population that is really challenged about attending these by Zoom or by phone. I'm worrying that we'll leave people out if we don't have a physical place. That's the question, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. And Carl wants to continue going down there. He's welcome to.
Well, no, I don't want to continue going down here indefinitely, but, are other people willing to share that duty? Or if it involves Carl's going to be here every week, I can't commit to doing that because sometimes I'm pressed to get here by 7 o'clock. Get my computer disassembled and get down here and get in. I just barely made it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Amy, the last time that happened was August 16th, that we had people attending like Leslie Goldman, and I think Abigail was there at the fire station. So there hasn't been a lot of attendance.
Yep. And I know Leslie can attend by Zoom. I mean, she's in the legislature by Zoom every day. I think also of the special meeting when 4 of us got together, and I think we had 2 people on Zoom and 2 people on the phone. Perfectly legitimate meeting attendance.
Carl, I
You could
understand
hear
your
everybody.
concern. I do understand your concern, Carl. I do. I think right now, just my experience has been, especially at work, people are preferring the remote option because of the surge. And I think it's going to be that way for another maybe 2 months or so.
We could also pass a motion to try it this way, but ask people to get in touch with us if they would prefer a physical meeting.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good compromise.
Bang the drum loudly that if people really want to meet in person, we would make that happen.
I would assume that if we go back to just the Zoom meetings and people want to attend, that they're going to be contacting you, so.
Well,
Right.
we have the mailing list of the people who get the
Agenda and minutes.
and agendas, so we could certainly send out a request for comments to that mailing list. I mean, Jay, we're going to go to all Zoom, and if you have a problem with that, please let us know.
Mm-hmm. That feels good to me. I mean,
And call the vote.
so we have a motion on the floor from Matt moving that we move to all electronic meetings. And there was a second on that motion? Yes? No?
Yes,
Did you second,
Me.
Ellen?
I
Okay.
did.
And I would add informally that we would publicize this decision and ask for community responses if people felt uncomfortable with that. So that's not part of the motion, but if the minutes could reflect that fact.
Will do.
Is there any other discussion before we vote?
Nope.
Carl, do you want to weigh in again with your concerns?
No, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward concern.
Okay.
I'm not.
Any other things we haven't considered here? Okay, the motion reads that we will move to all electronic meetings. All in favor, signify with a hand. So it looks like we need a roll call. You're not you're voting, all opposed, signify.
I'm opposed.
Okay, so the motion is 3-1 and the motion passes. And the roll call should show that Carl voted against.
Will do.
Okay. All right, the next one is town meeting. So the same legislature is offering us the ability, and we have a little more leeway because our bylaws have us meet on the second Monday in April, not the first Tuesday in March. But we have the opportunity to vote all items by Australian ballot, to hold a pre-meeting. So the suggestion is if you're going to do everything by Australian ballot, then you have a pre-meeting electronically or in person that allows for a general discussion of all the issues before the Australian ballot. Or we could postpone to a later date, or we could hold a conventional town meeting. So we have lots of options, and I wanted to ask your preferences tonight, but we could also wait on making a decision, given that our meeting isn't until April. But I think we need to have the annual report ready by the end of February. That's what it looked like when I went back and looked at the guidelines. Do you remember what the deadline is, Carl? Is it 60 days, 40 days?
I think it's 40 days, but don't quote me on that. I'm not certain.
Okay.
So how would Australian ballot work?
Well, we would have to, for example, name the candidates who would run for the positions. We'd have to come up with that list now and publish it as an Australian ballot. The items on the ballot have to be submitted in advance. You can only vote on the warned articles.
You're sending out notification regarding our meetings being electronically only.
Yep.
Maybe you should include that as to how the villagers would like to have their annual meeting, whether it be Zoom or a hybrid of Zoom and some at a location.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get a
So
better sense.
that's
of
what we had last year, right? The annual meeting, hold on, Gordon, just for a second. The annual meeting was primarily by Zoom, but we also had people who came physically to, now I can't remember, the fire station, I guess. Do you remember, Carl? Do you have those minutes?
It was at Main Street Arts, wasn't it?
The annual meeting?
The hybrid meeting. Yeah, I believe it was here in the back room.
The minutes I happen to know because I looked at them earlier, but I don't remember. The minutes are up on Town of Rockingham. Hold on and I'll share them. I don't understand why the Saxtons River minutes aren't the very first thing you get to. April 12th, 2021. Online via Zoom, Saxtons River Fire Station Community Room.
Oh, okay.
Monday, April 12th, 7 p.m. So the fire station was Ben Wallace. Fire station, Abigail Golda went there. Others present. So pretty much everybody attended by Zoom. Do you want to discuss this next month? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's let Gordon speak. Gordon, we're talking about the annual meeting and how to do it.
Don't worry, we're listening. Don't worry. We're just stretched out on the couch or watching on TV. No, I mean, I don't remember an Australian ballot in Saxtons River. I'm sure it must have happened. The question is, would it actually mean that more people would, which method would get the most people involved? And I don't know the answer to that question, but you're talking about Australian, the Australian ballot, the way, not Australian ballot, but the town meeting up in the elementary school. You're talking about as a hybrid where there would be both people present, or are you talking about totally Zoom?
So we have all of those alternatives available to us.
Right. So which one do you think would get the most people attending?
So it's possible if we held open voting, say with mailed ballots, that more people would vote. That is a very different feel from a town meeting where people come together and discuss the issues. But
Yeah, it also means a whole lot of more work in preparation if you're going to do Australian ballot, right?
mhm, yep. And it means you can't have those last minute discussions. So I reread the minutes from the last annual meeting. Ellen wasn't there. And although we thought that she would run, we decided not to vote her in at town meeting because it didn't seem right with her not being there.
Well, no, I think what happened was I came in late to it, if I remember correctly. I thought that I did attend, but I wasn't there in the very beginning of the meeting because I do see my name in the in the minutes.
I mean, ever since I've been living in this village, it's always been people were present, you know, so.
Yep. So this is the actual draft minutes. They aren't approved until 2022 when we get together again. So what I was remembering is let's see, 1-year term as village trustee. So Matt nominated Ellen. Sarah Campbell seconded the nomination. This is relatively early in the meeting, but Ellen Lawrence was not present to respond. So we decided to fill the position at a later date. And my guess is that you probably came right after when we were talking about village auditor or something else, Ellen, and we didn't go back.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Oh, yep. It says Ellen Lawrence having joined the meeting during the nominations for village auditor.
Oh, good.
Yep. And then Matt nominated me again.
Great. And so we did get you then. Excellent.
That's the good thing about in-person meeting, that people can, everybody out, you know, they can shame other people and they get,
Yeah, and
I appreciate
I don't think it's shame, but
all right, no,
I'll
it's
tell
not
you,
the wrong word.
we had a hard time finding.
Yes,
I felt it was very challenging finding people. I mean, we totally lucked out with Ellen and Rick, but finding 2 people to run for a board of village trustees was challenging. And you know, if you're up for it, I mean, that's the next item on the agenda, trustee elections in 2022. I'm getting the sense that people don't want to make a decision tonight. Should we postpone it?
Table it. Table
Okay.
it for our next meeting.
So yeah, next meeting. Okay, February 7th, decide on format for, oh, and the other thing we could do is meet even later. So, you know, everything so far has been, if you're in the open air, it's not a problem with COVID. So maybe we meet April 30th, and if it's raining, we bring our umbrellas and, you know, or we have all the windows open and fans going. I mean, I don't know what, but the idea is if you meet later, you know, you wouldn't have a weather situation. I'm going to stop this share.
If you met upstairs in the Main Street Arts, a lot of people people would be better able to socially distance themselves.
Yep, good point. We have that available to us now. We did not previously. The Zoom there is a little dicey. So that's the one thing with Main Street Arts. It's a little bit like the select board meetings in town hall. You've got to be braced for a lot of freezing. I mean, if we're going to do that, I would really urge all of the trustees to show up at the town meeting and really, I mean, and if we had a surge, then we couldn't do it that way. We, you know, have to do it. But maybe that's the answer. Do a hybrid and have Main Street Arts be our physical location. Okay, February 7th, we'll discuss. Anything else on that one before we move on? Any other questions? Okay. So trustee elections in 2022. As near as I can figure out, I'm the only person who is on until 2023. Matt, I think, are you serving the second year of a 2-year term, which expires in 2022?
I have no idea. I don't have that in front of me.
Well, I went back to try and figure it out, and it was very confusing to me. Ellen, you served you were elected for a 1-year term, I'm pretty sure. And Rick also. Carl, your term expires in 2022. And Sarah is elected annually. We elect treasurer and tax collector annually. So what's your pleasure? Ellen, do you want to continue serving?
I think I would like to, yes.
Great. So actually what the bylaws say is we should have 2 people for 2-year terms and 2 people for 3-year terms and 1 person for a 1-year term.
Move to have Ellen a 3-year term.
Yeah,
I think that would be great.
I think we need to just play it by ear.
Well, you can always resign. I mean, I think but when I went back and read the bylaws, their intent was very clear. And I actually feel a little uncomfortable having all these 1-year terms. I mean, if all of you turn tail and run, that's
That's true.
That's frightening. So the idea is to have 2 for, so it would be, say, 2 running out, 2 expiring in 23 and 3 expiring in 24. No, 2 expiring in 24 and then 1 person. Let's see, a 3-year term.
Would expire in 25. Yes?
Yes. Two in 23, 2 in 25, and 1 in.
Should be 2 in 24.
Right, okay, and 1 in
2 in
23.
And one in 23.
Yep. So my 2-year term is going to expire in 23. So I'm one of the 2-year terms. So that's already screwed it up. Maybe we should say, Matt, since you don't know, or Carl, well, Carl, we do know though, but Matt, maybe you should, would you be willing to serve through 23?
Sure.
So that would be Matt and Amy as the 2-year terms, expiring in 23.
All right.
And then Carl, would you be willing to do a 3-year term? You could always quit in the middle.
Yeah.
So if you ran in 22, that would put you through to 25. And that would leave Rick and Ellen to fight over who's going to serve for 3 years and who's going to serve for 1.
Can we average? I'd like to average it out.
I know you would, but that's not what the bylaws say.
It's whoever's at the meeting.
Do you 2 want to discuss it? Because we should come to some clarity about this.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and you know, maybe Rick is going to say, nah, I'm done. You know, count me
Yeah,
out.
that's true.
almost-
Yeah, because he wasn't at work today, so at least I didn't see him. So yeah, he and I can speak about it.
Okay, so we've made progress. I'm happy with that. Any other questions about trustee elections? I'm assuming we ask Sarah Campbell to serve for 2 more for another year. Does anybody object to that?
No.
Oh,
Okay, great. Okay, apportionment. This is just a quick summation. Jean Corstange called me to ask what is happening about Saxtons River. And I have reached out to Jeanette White and to Leslie Goldman. It looks like we will be included, at least in the map that has been passed at the moment, included in the town of Rockingham. It is a district that includes Rockingham and Westminster.
Oh, good.
They will be taking testimony, I believe, at some point on the 27th of January. And you might want to talk to your representative on the Board of Civil Authority. Peter Golick, I'm sure, knows if the BCA has been contacted to give testimony. I'm sure he wants to give testimony. So that's the update on apportionment.
Okay.
I have not heard from the treasurer about electronic payments. Has anybody seen Sarah Campbell? Is she okay?
I have not. I reached out to her too, but I haven't heard back about the electronic payments as well, because I did talk briefly with Cynthia Stoddard about them as an option. And she felt that that was something that, just in her experience, we should be able to do. And we would just warrant it each month before the payment is due. So I did, like I said, I did reach out to Sarah, but I haven't heard back yet.
Should we pass a motion encouraging Sarah to do it officially, just so we have something on the books? What's your pleasure?
I don't know if I feel comfortable with that without talking to her first to make sure she feels comfortable.
I think we should talk to her about it before we pass
Okay.
the motion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, are we ready for item number 13, committee reports and updates? Okay, fire station. It was great to see you on the cover of the Shopper, Ellen.
I didn't know anything about it.
Visibility grant.
I didn't get any phone calls or any requests to talk about it. So all of a sudden I start getting messages and texts. So no, I have no further update.
No further comments?
Did you guys see the grant before it went in?
I did not.
Okay, so I'll send that to everybody. Gary sent it to me and I haven't read it yet.
I did. I mean, I have heard from people about it, but I think I've answered any questions that were outstanding for clarification. I know Wade Misher wasn't really clear on it, so he came over and we sat for 2 hours and discussed it.
Ooh, I need my folders back. My folders. I need
Your
the village
folders.
folders back. Yeah, there's this hole in the filing cabinet. No, if you're willing, I'd really like to stick them back in so we have everything.
Yeah, and that, yeah, no problem at all.
Right.
And I was gonna walk them over and I haven't yet.
It's been cold.
Yeah.
Okay, updates on the wastewater treatment plant. Carl?
Nope, nothing.
So I did receive a request that was sent to you, Carl, and to me by Andrea, help me out, Arvinson, asking for a fiscal report that she had requested in September. And I have forwarded that request to Sarah Campbell.
I did not see that.
This is an email that came sometime today. I'm going to say after noon.
Okay, then I haven't checked my email since it
Yep.
came.
So obviously this refers to the USDA funds and a piece of reporting that should have been turned in for this fiscal year. So when you get a chance, please look at it and let me know if there's anything else we should do.
Okay.
Anything else on the wastewater treatment plant? I think we're up to item number 14, minutes for approval from January 3rd, 2022.
I move that we approve the minutes of January 3rd, 2022 as written.
Is there a second?
I second it.
I'd like to note that there was one correction to be made to those minutes. There was an incorrect date in the original minutes. So I guess I would amend the motion to approve them as corrected.
Are you okay with that, Matt?
Absolutely.
Are you okay with that, Ellen?
I absolutely am.
It's been moved to approve the minutes of January 3rd, 2022 as corrected and seconded. And are we ready for a vote, or is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
I'm voting in favor.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Great. We are on to the warrants and bills for approval. I sent those out quite late, so let me do a screen share of them. I don't know if you can see that. Probably, Carl, you can't.
Yeah, I can make it out.
Good. So I just want to show in row 5, it is time to send our contribution in for the municipal planning grant for 37 Main. If you remember, we agreed to contribute $500. The Saxtons River Historical Society agreed to contribute $200. Main Street Arts has an individual who is donating $500, and I believe the town of Rockingham put in $1,000. So our contribution is due now, and those are all going to be checks made out to town of Rockingham. The rest are relatively routine bills. I did put in red the Green Mountain Power 2 payment bill. Again, we are being threatened with a disconnect notice, and I wanted to make sure that that flashed warning signals for Sarah when she sees them. So the total is $10,421.76.
Make a motion that we approve the warrant for $10,421.76.
Is there a second for that motion?
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the warrant for January 24th in the amount of $10,421.76. I'm going to stop the share so I can see you. All in favor, show with a hand. And no one opposed, right? That's unanimous. Great. Is there any other business?
Yeah,
Okay.
So working up at 19 Westminster Street, I have concluded that there needs to be more signage at the end of Hartley Hill Road. I know Carl has mentioned it. That's a horrible intersection there, and it seems as though people that don't know the area come up through, and when they head to Hartley Hill, they do not hesitate or take their foot off the gas pedal at all.
So you're talking about they're
They
ramming
just go
across
straight
that
through.
intersection?
Yeah, there's
Wow.
a tree company. Well, and must be there's some people that live up there too that just they don't hesitate. This tree company that had been doing some work in town went up through there with 3 trucks, 2 full-size pickups, and then a larger box truck with a piece of equipment on a trailer in the back. And they went straight through that intersection with not any hesitation on the gas pedal. I was shocked. Most people that make the transition there slow down significantly, almost to a stop, before merging onto Hartley Hill Road. Yeah, there needs to be some signage pointing down Westminster Street to let cars know that they need to be yielding there before they go on Hartley Hill Road.
I'd second that idea.
It's horrific. And coming the other way from Westminster West, the speed of the traffic doesn't seem to be, well, horrible to me while I'm there. I know that I can see that people do pick up speed once they cross the bridge. I seem to have done that a couple times. But in general, the speed didn't seem horrific, but the people coming up Westminster Street to Hartley Hill, it's amazing there hasn't been a horrific accident there.
Does anybody know what the procedure is? I mean, I have a feeling that we're going to find that there are, 62 rules about where to put signs and how they can be put and what they have to say. Anybody been through this previously?
No, but I hope it doesn't get as confusing as it is down by the post office.
I know.
With your permission, I can reach out to Chuck Wise. I mean, I don't know if it's planning, but it seems like it might be.
Well, the guy in charge of the road foreman is
Andy Howarth.
Andy?
Yeah, you probably would start with him. I mean, he's
Okay.
going to have to get approval, I would think, to do anything. But there needs to be some education right there. That's just.
What sort of a sign would you suggest, Matt?
I don't know. Stop or you'll get shot. I don't know. I don't know what sign you would put there. It's almost like you have to put a stop sign.
Yeah.
It's amazing. But like I said, most people, they're very cautious. They slow down to almost a stop before merging on there. But there's others. There was a pickup that went through there with a plow on it, and same thing, just went through like that was the main route.
But
So
all those are,
I don't know what. If there's a yield to right-hand traffic, I don't know what the sign is, but
So let's ask the experts.
yeah, there
Okay.
needs to be a couple of them there to get people.
all that space is village space, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Rockingham doesn't start until when is Rockingham?
So Westminster starts on the
I mean,
far
Westminster.
side of the trailer park. And I'm not sure where on Hartley Hill, but the Stickney House is definitely still Saxtons River Village. Is that the furthest out?
Yes, so the village boundary is
up further.
the right pasture line is how it's written. And that's basically the driveway to the Stickney House. So that's the village limit.
So it is, so that intersection is in the village.
Yep, it's where the pavement ends. Oh yes, I pay village property taxes.
Yep.
Oh, you got two of them, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's just, I noticed it working up there. It's just.
Can I also request a sign?
Where do you
Are
want
you
your
doing
sign?
your 3 years or not?
Probably. At the bottom of Pleasant Valley Road, pointing where 121 goes, because every I am not exaggerating when I say almost every single day someone is turning around in my driveway because they meant to go 121 instead of Pleasant Valley Road.
And they don't know about Corey. They don't know about Corey Hill Road.
No, they don't, because the license plates are not local. And they don't turn around in Carol's driveway, and they don't turn around in Dale's driveway. They turn around in mine. So
you want a sign that says 121 and indicates that you go straight past that? Okay.
Yeah, not.
I would assume there's one that says Pleasant Valley Road at that intersection.
It does, but when you are when you're coming along, it's really easy to think you're continuing on 121 if you go right. It's not, the sign is angled the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, we'll ask them to come out and diagnose our problems and come up with a recommendation. Gordon.
I don't see how you can do it without a three-way stop. Frankly. I don't see, because this tube's crazy, like it's malfunction junction. Anyway, but that's.
Well, at least some signage to begin with, to maybe get people to hesitate more than they are.
Not a roundabout.
I was just going to say, if we were Brattleboro, we definitely put a roundabout right there.
The world's smallest roundabout.
There is a stop sign on Hartley Hill Road that people just blow through, ignoring it completely routinely.
Seen a few come through there looking down at their cell phones.
Yeah,
There he is.
you know,
Yeah,
the people come down and they look down through our dooryard. If they don't see
Right.
anything coming, they don't.
Oh, my gosh.
yeah.
I wave at them as though they're looking at me, but I know they're not.
Yeah. Okay, any other signage that we want to ask about while I'm emailing these two? Okay, any other business? We are up to the question of what to do in February. So in February, President's Day falls on a town meeting day, the 21st. We will have a meeting on the 7th, the first Monday in February. The question is what to do about the 21st. We could try and skip a meeting. We could wait until the 7th and make a call then. What's your pleasure?
Skip it.
I was going to say, let's see what things look like on the 7th.
Yeah, I
Okay.
agree with Carl.
All right, is that good enough for right now? I'd
Sure.
love to skip a meeting, but geez, you know, you get these agendas and it's hard. Okay, decide on the 7th. Okay, anything else for the next meeting? So we have decision on the format for April. I guess we'll have final decisions for who will run and for what terms. Matt and Carl, how did Louise get the information sent for the annual report? Did she take that on herself or did she divvy that up within the Board of Trustees? There are a number of reports. I think I have one or two that people have automatically sent me, but there are others notable in their absence.
As far as I know, she collected them
Okay,
and nagged people to get them to her.
okay. All right, I guess that's clear. She's been so great every time I've needed help,
Mhm.
so. I'll just make a note. Do we need an executive session for any reason?
Nope.
I think we're at that magic moment.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a
Second?
second? Thanks,
Second.
guys.